The legend of the Bermuda Triangle is woven into the very fabric of maritime and aviation history. It's a story of eerie disappearances, of vessels and aircraft swallowed by the sea without a trace.
For over a century, the Bermuda Triangle has swallowed ships, planes, and entire crews without a trace. Pilots vanished mid-flight, compasses spun wildly, and theories ranged from aliens to underwater civilizations. But now, after decades of mystery, scientists have uncovered the real cause, and it's more terrifying than anyone imagined. With advanced technology and data never before available, the truth has finally surfaced. What they discovered beneath those cursed waters will shock even the biggest skeptics. The turning point. For decades, the Bermuda Triangle was a playground for conspiracy and curiosity, but not exactly a magnet for scientific research. It wasn't that scientists didn't care, it's just that the data didn't seem to exist. No consistent wreckage, no survivors with solid evidence, no natural patterns to analyze. It was all whispers and weirdness. But then came the 21st century, and with it, tools that made the invisible. Satellite imaging, deep-sea drones, and AI-powered data models changed everything. Suddenly, the ocean wasn't an unknowable void anymore. It was a landscape we could scan, measure, and map in real time. And a handful of researchers decided to point that tech right at the heart of the triangle. It started small. Meteorologists noticed strange hexagonal-shaped cloud formations over the area, something not seen in most parts of the world. These clouds, it turned out, were associated with microbursts, intense, sudden blasts of wind that could reach speeds of 170 mph and slam into the ocean with devastating force. If a plane flew into one unprepared, it could be knocked straight out of the sky. If a ship were caught in the resulting wave surge, it might never recover.
In recent years has only served to increase the enigma surrounding it.
Oceanographers joined the effort, deploying deep-sea drones and sonar to scan the ocean floor. What they found shocked them: massive underwater craters, likely caused by methane hydrate eruptions. These deposits, frozen methane locked beneath the sea floor, can violently explode under the right conditions, releasing huge gas bubbles. If this happens beneath a ship, it literally loses buoyancy. The vessel would sink almost instantly, leaving barely a trace. Then came the geomagnetic researchers. Compasses going haywire in the triangle? Turns out, there are real magnetic anomalies in that region where Earth's natural magnetic field bends slightly. It's enough to confuse instruments, especially before GPS, and send navigators off course without even realizing it. All of this began to point toward a pattern. The Bermuda Triangle wasn't cursed. It was chaotic, a rare confluence of dangerous natural phenomena, all crammed into one region. Weather, ocean chemistry, geography, and magnetism, each factor alone could be survivable. But together, they created the perfect storm. By the mid-2010s, international research teams from the US, UK, Norway, and Japan were funding deep ocean studies in the Triangle. Their goal wasn't to debunk myths, it was to understand the ocean's behavior in extreme conditions. But as the studies continued, researchers kept finding correlations between real scientific phenomena and many of the Triangle's most infamous incidents. One scientist called it an accident of geography. Another described it as a place where the laws of nature haven't broken, but they're definitely under pressure. The Bermuda Triangle wasn't paranormal. It was extremely normal, just in the most terrifying way possible. The mystery was starting to unravel, thread by thread. And the real shocker? What came next? The shocking discovery. Forget aliens. Forget Atlantis. The real answer to the Bermuda Triangle mystery is even more chilling, because it's real, and it's happening right now. As the research teams dug deeper, literally and figuratively, they began to uncover a set of natural phenomena that, when combined, explain almost every bizarre event the Triangle has ever claimed. Not one single smoking gun, but a terrifying combination of forces, each deadly on its own, together, practically inescapable. Let's start with the ocean floor. Using sonar mapping and deep-diving autonomous vehicles, scientists discovered massive methane hydrate deposits beneath the seafloor in several triangle hotspots. Under normal conditions, these methane crystals stay frozen, trapped in cold, high-pressure environments. But when geological shifts, like small earthquakes or landslides, disturb them, they erupt. And when they do, the result is chaos. Explosions of methane gas rise through the water column and create enormous bubbles. If a ship happens to be above one of these eruptions, the water beneath it suddenly loses density. The vessel drops like a rock. There's no warning, no time to react, and no debris left behind. Simulations showed entire cargo ships could vanish in seconds. Not sunk, not wrecked, just gone. But the ocean wasn't the only player. Above the surface, meteorologists had been studying satellite images of the triangle when they noticed something rare: hexagonal clouds, perfect six-sided formations stretching for dozens of miles. These clouds, as strange as they look, are real, and they're dangerous. They produce what are known as microbursts, violent, localized downdrafts of wind slamming into the ocean at speeds of up to 170 miles per hour. These gusts can create rogue waves as high as 50 to 100 feet, seemingly out of nowhere. Any vessel caught in one would be overwhelmed almost instantly. And aircraft? Even modern jets would struggle to stabilize. It was the first time scientists had direct visual and meteorological proof that the triangle's airspace isn't just unstable, it's a sky-based minefield. Next came the magnetic anomalies. A long-standing pilot complaint, the compass stopped working, wasn't just tall tales or panic. Researchers confirmed that geomagnetic flux lines in the region dip and warp in ways they don't in other parts of the world. While minor, these shifts can confuse older navigation equipment, especially in the days before GPS. Even modern planes rely on magnetic data to calibrate internal systems. Imagine flying blind for just a few minutes in unpredictable weather. That's all it takes. And then there were the rogue waves. Once considered sailors' myths, rogue waves are now a proven oceanic phenomenon. They're huge, spontaneous walls of water formed when multiple wave systems intersect. Thanks to radar satellites, researchers discovered that the Bermuda Triangle is a hot zone for rogue waves, largely due to its geography, prevailing winds, and ocean currents clashing at sharp angles. So here's the twist. The Bermuda Triangle isn't one supernatural force. It's many natural forces all overlapping in a very unlucky piece of the planet. You've got methane eruptions from the seafloor, hexagonal clouds creating sky-punching microbursts, rogue waves towering over ships without warning, magnetic anomalies that throw off navigation, and a weather system that changes faster than forecasts can keep up. It's not haunted, it's not cursed. It's just nature at its most volatile, stacked layer upon deadly layer. And that's the real mystery solved. No alien beams, no mythical cities, just the raw, unfiltered chaos of Earth doing what it does best, reminding us who's really in control. But the wildest part? Most of these forces don't just exist in the Bermuda Triangle. They exist elsewhere too. The triangle just happens to be where they all collide, with terrifying precision. The mysterious disappearances. The Bermuda Triangle doesn't ask permission, it takes. It stretches across a deceptively beautiful patch of the Atlantic Ocean, roughly bounded by Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, an area totaling over 500,000 square miles. But don't let the crystal-clear waters and postcard beaches fool you. This triangle has earned a darker reputation, one that has haunted maritime legends and aviation manuals alike for over a century. Ships have vanished without a single distress signal. Planes have taken off, radioed in routine updates, and then never been heard from again. It all began to snowball in December 1945 when Flight 19, a squadron of 5 U.S. Navy bombers on a routine training mission, disappeared without explanation. Radio transmissions became erratic, compasses spun out of control, and the pilots grew increasingly disoriented until all contact was lost. No wreckage was found. Even more chilling, a rescue plane sent to find them vanished too, along with its 13-member crew. That's 6 planes gone. And that was just the start. In 1918, the USS Cyclops, a massive U.S. Navy cargo ship, was sailing from Barbados to Baltimore with over 300 men aboard. It never arrived. No SOS, no debris, no explanation. To this day, it remains the single largest non-combat loss of life in U.S. Navy history. Then, there's the case of the Witchcraft, a cabin cruiser that left Miami in 1967. The owner radioed the Coast Guard, saying he had struck something, but there was no immediate danger. The location was just 1 mile from shore. In less than 20 minutes, the Coast Guard arrived and found nothing. Not the boat, not a scrap of wood, not an oil slick. It had simply vanished. More recently, in 2015, the cargo ship El Faro,
the American cargo ship El Faro, as she sank near the Bahamas last year,
equipped with modern technology and GPS systems, disappeared in the Triangle during Hurricane Joaquin. Despite a massive search effort, all 33 crew members were lost. The ship was eventually found 15,000 feet below the surface, but the sudden loss of power and catastrophic flooding that led to its sinking still raises unsettling questions. What ties all these disappearances together? That's what's always made the Bermuda Triangle so compelling and so frightening. Ships and planes don't just vanish. Not like this. Not with no warning, no wreckage, no logical explanation. Over the decades, some called it coincidence, others a statistical anomaly. But even conservative estimates link the triangle to dozens of disappearances, if not hundreds, dating back to the 1800s. Stories began to swirl. Some survivors, few as they were, described eerie green fogs or sudden mechanical failure. Others swore their instruments went haywire as if magnetized by some unseen force. Pilots spoke of white walls in the sky, sailors of whirlpools that came from nowhere. The wild theories that tried to explain it all. When science stays silent, imagination fills the void. And when it comes to the Bermuda Triangle, that void was massive. With shipwrecks vanishing into thin air and pilots seemingly swallowed by the sky, it didn't take long for the world's wildest thinkers, storytellers, and conspiracy theorists to jump in with their own explanations. And honestly, some of them were so outrageous they almost felt believable. Let's start with the aliens. Yep, aliens. One of the most persistent theories is that extraterrestrials are responsible for the disappearances, using the triangle as a kind of intergalactic highway rest stop. According to believers, ships and planes weren't just crashing or sinking, they were being abducted. That would explain the complete lack of wreckage, right? The idea was popularized by books like The Bermuda Triangle by Charles Berlitz in the 70s, which sold millions and helped cement the triangle's place in pop culture weirdness. But if aliens weren't snatching up sailors, maybe it was the lost city of Atlantis. Some theorists claim Atlantis was located under the Bermuda Triangle and that advanced Atlantean technology is still active, even submerged for thousands of years. This technology, supposedly powered by mysterious crystals, might be creating energy fields strong enough to knock out modern navigation and propulsion systems. It's total sci-fi, but people wanted to believe. The legend of a powerful civilization lost beneath the waves just fits too perfectly, doesn't it? Then came the time travel theories. According to this camp, the triangle might be a natural time warp or dimensional portal, one that opens randomly and sucks in unsuspecting vessels. In these versions, ships aren't destroyed. They're just stuck in some other timeline, maybe even doomed to sail forever in an alternate reality. Some stories claimed ghost ships had reappeared decades after vanishing, completely intact but abandoned. Were they caught in a time loop? Of course, no conspiracy list is complete without secret government experiments. Rumors swirled about off-the-books U.S. Navy tests during and after World War II. One famous story tied to this theory is the so-called Philadelphia experiment, in which the Navy allegedly tried to make a ship invisible or teleport it, and accidentally opened a rift in space-time. Though totally debunked, the story somehow got linked to the Bermuda Triangle, with whispers of hidden military bases beneath the ocean and technology that could bend physics itself. And then there are the supernatural explanations: sea monsters, curses, underwater vortexes. Some even suggested the devil had claimed the triangle as his personal hunting ground. Religion, folklore, and mythology all tried to explain what science wouldn't or couldn't. The result? The Bermuda Triangle became less of a place and more of a mythical force, a testing ground for human imagination. It showed up in books, movies, video games, late-night radio shows, and every corner of the internet long before viral was a thing. It was mysterious, dangerous, unexplainable, and most of all, untouchable by logic. Let's be honest, the Bermuda Triangle has been a cash cow for mystery mongers. From pulp paperbacks to YouTube rabbit holes, it's been sold as Earth's ultimate riddle. But now that the science is out in the open, it's time to ask the awkward question: how did we get fooled for so long? The answer? A mix of sensationalism, poor record-keeping, and plain old human psychology. Debunking the myths. Let's rewind to the 70s. The explosion of interest in the Bermuda Triangle came largely from one book, The Bermuda Triangle, by Charles Berlitz.
The Bermuda Triangle in other areas of the sea, but of course they have been seen in most places on Earth.
It was dramatic, mysterious, and only loosely tethered to facts. Berlitz took every missing ship and plane he could find, strung them together, and added just enough maybe and what if to let readers' imaginations do the rest. He wasn't alone. Media outlets ran with it. Movies dramatized it. Documentaries leaned into ominous narration and thunder sound effects. And suddenly, the Bermuda Triangle wasn't just an area on a map, it was a brand. But here's what the flashy headlines left out. Many of the so-called unexplained disappearances, they weren't in the triangle at all. Some happened far outside its boundaries. Others were due to bad weather, mechanical failure, or human error, plain and simple. Flight 19, for instance, we now know they were flying in poor conditions, low on fuel, and likely disoriented. The Navy's own investigation at the time concluded it was a training accident, not a supernatural event. And remember the massive USS Cyclops? Turns out it was likely overloaded, traveling on one engine, and may have run into a violent storm. There was no mystery, just a tragic combination of bad decisions and bad luck. The so-called ghost ship stories, almost all of them have mundane explanations. Some were fabricated entirely. Others were twisted versions of real events, ships abandoned due to fires, mutiny, or navigational failures, then dramatized beyond recognition. What about the pilots who claimed their instruments went crazy? Many were flying in areas known for magnetic anomalies, something modern science can now measure and predict. And before GPS, compass errors could easily send even skilled aviators miles off course, especially in poor visibility. There's also the psychological factor. Once the Bermuda Triangle became famous, every incident in the area was viewed through a lens of mystery. A ship sinking in a storm off the coast of Puerto Rico? It vanished in the Triangle. A plane lost during bad weather out of Miami? Another victim. It didn't matter if the explanations were already known. The myth was more exciting than the truth. And here's the final blow. There is no statistically significant increase in disappearances within the Bermuda Triangle compared to similarly busy regions of ocean. The U.S. Coast Guard and NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, have both released statements affirming this. In short, the numbers don't back the legend. Redefining the Bermuda Triangle. Has the curtain closed for good? Is the legend dead? Not quite, because even though the terrifying unknown has been replaced with measurable phenomena and data points, the triangle still holds a strange grip on our collective imagination. Maybe even more so now, because what science has revealed isn't comforting. If anything, it's worse than aliens or ancient cities. It's real. We now understand that the Bermuda Triangle isn't cursed or enchanted. It's a perfect storm zone, where several natural dangers overlap like a Venn diagram from hell.
Bermuda Triangle, this deadly graveyard. Is there anything to the myths of abductions?
The methane eruptions, rogue waves, magnetic anomalies, and violent microbursts aren't science fiction. They're ongoing, measurable, and still happening. And that changes how the world approaches the region. Flight paths have been adjusted in some cases, especially for smaller aircraft. Maritime shipping routes now factor in real-time oceanographic and weather data that didn't exist just 20 years ago. The tech revolution, especially AI modeling and satellite imaging, has made it possible to anticipate and avoid dangerous conditions that previously would have gone unnoticed until it was too late. In other words, the mystery may be solved, but the danger remains. The U.S. Coast Guard still treats the area with caution. International shipping companies routinely train crews on how to respond to sudden anomalies. Some insurance firms even factor the region into premium calculations, especially for older vessels. So, has the public accepted the truth, while scientific communities and most mainstream media outlets have embraced the natural explanations? A solid chunk of the internet still clings to the old legends. Search Bermuda Triangle on YouTube or TikTok, and you'll find plenty of content pushing the alien theories, the lost time narratives, and the fantasy of portals to other dimensions. Why? Because the mystery sells. The truth? Not as much. It's hard to compete with the drama of a pilot vanishing into a glowing sky vortex, when the real explanation is storm plus navigation error plus rogue wave. Logical? Yes. Thrilling bedtime story? Not quite. But here's the thing. The triangle doesn't need aliens to be terrifying. The idea that methane bubbles can drag a ship to the bottom of the ocean in seconds? That microbursts can drop a plane out of the sky with no warning? That waves the height of a 10-story building can rise from calm waters? Even with GPS, radar, and AI, we're not invincible. We're just visitors, flying and sailing through a world that still plays by its own rules. Maybe the Bermuda Triangle isn't losing its status as a mystery. It's simply evolving. No longer a supernatural black hole, but a powerful symbol of how much we still don't control. And in a way, that's even more fascinating. Fan of the Bermuda Mysteries? Comment your thoughts below and subscribe to the channel for more.